All right, happy Monday, everybody. Welcome into the show. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now. My name is Chase Senior, and on today's show, I'm going to try to be the voice of reason for Eagles fans out there and pass along some much-needed good news after a bad loss for Philadelphia yesterday to the Denver Broncos in Week 5. And there is no doubt that that loss sucked for Philadelphia. They gave up 18 fourth-quarter unanswered points. The offense collapsed late once again. The defense wore down because the offense couldn't do anything after the Saquon Barkley 47-yard touchdown off the wheel route. Philadelphia's offense went 2 for 11 on third down. There were costly penalties all throughout the game, and they happened over and over and over again. And sneakily, this has become, for a team that preaches discipline, a huge problem for this team this year. The Eagles' offensive line is looked at as one of the top premier elite units in the National Football League. They're still struggling, and that's concerning because a lot of members along that offensive line highly paid. They gave up 6 sacks against a Broncos team that we knew coming in was number 1 in the NFL in sacks, number 1 in pressure rate, and number 1 in quarterback hits. And some of that is on Jalen Hurts for not getting rid of the ball quicker, but it's also on the offensive line because this has been an issue all season long. Saquon Barkley had just 6 carries. Now, when you're up 14 points, you got to give Saquon the pill a little bit more in that second half, in my opinion, but he averaged 2.5 yards per carry. The Broncos loaded the box. This has also been something that teams have done all year because they're selling out in stopping the run because they know that this offense is built around Saquon. So it's a problem on both ends, right? Kevin Patullo can do a better job of giving him the ball, but the Eagles have to establish a more consistent passing attack and lighten up the boxes by having success throwing it because right now they can't run into heavy boxes because it's idiotic to do so. The Eagles also continue to be flustered when teams go with zone defenses. When teams play man, Philadelphia looks like one of the top offenses in the NFL. When they go zone, Eagles have no answers. This is a Jalen Hurts issue. It's a Kevin Patullo problem. And what's a shame about this defeat for Philadelphia, I thought the offense looked very solid to start, especially when the Broncos were running that man defense. Devontae Smith was popping off. A.J. Brown was really good against Patrick Surtain. Jalen Hurts looked pretty damn good. You had Saquon Barkley's longest run of the year. Unfortunately, 17 yards, but still a good play. And then you pop that wheel route for the 47-yard score, and you take that big lead, nothing from that point moving forward. And another shame is that this Eagles defense was dominating the first 3 quarters of the game until they inevitably wore down. Vic Fangio had Bo Nix confused and confounded. Bo Nix looked terrible. Then he caught a little bit of a rhythm in that fourth quarter. Quinyon Mitchell gave up some passing plays to Cortland Sutton. The Broncos had some creases in the ground game, and they went on to score 18 points in the fourth quarter alone. And a lot of us are waking up on Monday. We're feeling wounded. We're limping around emotionally, spiritually, mentally. We're feeling beaten and battered because that was a horrible Philadelphia sports weekend. Red October got underway. Citizens Bank Park was rocking. The Phillies got the Shohei Ohtani. They scored 3 runs against him. JT Realmuto becoming the oldest catcher in the playoffs to hit a triple. That brings in 2. The Harrison Bader sac fly, that brought in another one. Christopher Sanchez, really good through 5 innings. He goes 5 2/3, and the Dodgers get to him a little bit late as, once again, they come through in the clutch, and then the Phillies bullpen collapses. The top of the Phillies lineup was bad. The Phillies give up another lead, and they lose after they had the bases loaded in the 8th inning. They couldn't come through in the crunch and in the clutch like the Dodgers could. Teoscar Hernandez with that home run off Matt Strahm, and it was a repeat of last year all over again, where the Phillies starter pitches well, then the lineup gets cold, and the bullpen just completely collapses. So that was on Saturday night when the Phillies blew that 3-0 lead. And then on Sunday, less than 24 hours later, across the street, across the parking lot at Lincoln Financial Field, the Eagles go up 17-3 against one of the top defenses in the National Football League. And then the Broncos pop off 18 unanswered points, and all of us were feeling that way. That was certainly me and producer Chip on the live show yesterday. Now let's talk a little bit about Jalen Hurts here. Jalen Hurts has become the most polarizing player in the NFL, and it's not close. The conversations around him on social media get really ugly, get really negative, and they get very delusional. And I was trying to figure out who another professional athlete can kind of compare it to Jalen Hurts. And Will Ortner, who hosts our Seahawks channel, said Jason Tatum, right? Because Jason Tatum is looked at as a superstar, never gets credit for winning. When the Celtics won a championship, it was Jaylen Brown who got a lot of the recognition. And when the Celtics win, he never gets credit. When the Celtics lose, he gets all the blame. Jalen Hurts is kind of like that with the Eagles. And it's odd to me because he's a high-character guy. He's a great leader. He has such a great story of perseverance. He has such a great underdog story. He's had to overcome a lot in his football life. He was cast aside at Alabama after he had played well and looked to be a darling in Tuscaloosa. Goes to Oklahoma and plays very well. And then as a second-round pick by the Eagles, he steps in for Carson Wentz. He was looked at as a project, as a backup. In 2021, he played okay. And then in 2022, he's runner-up for MVP, goes to the Super Bowl, puts up huge numbers against Steve Spagnuolo. 2023 struggles. Last year plays well, but doesn't get credit. Then he wins Super Bowl MVP, wins a Super Bowl, outperforms Patrick Mahomes in 2 Super Bowls, yet people still think he stinks, and they won't give him enough credit. And so when Hurts plays well against an elite defense like he did yesterday, I take note of that. And I thought Hurts played very well for a majority of that game. Obviously, he deserves some blame for the offense going off the rails, but nobody now, because the Eagles choked and the Eagles gave up those 18 unanswered points and the offense collapsed late, is going to acknowledge that Hurts actually performed well against one of the top defenses in the National Football League. Now, of course, can Hurts be better? Undoubtedly, especially against zone. He has to do a better job of diagnosing it. Kevin Patullo has to do a better job of devising plays and being better with the scheme to beat zone. Great players can beat man. A scheme can beat zone. And right now, the Eagles aren't able to find answers against his own defense. That's a Patullo problem. It's a scheme problem. It's a Nick Sirianni problem. And it's a Jalen Hurts problem. But against that Broncos team, which has an excellent front, which has the best cornerback in football in Patrick Surtain, who rebounded after an okay first half against A.J. Brown to play lockdown play in that second half, Hurts had some splash plays. And the Eagles also had some misses that were not on Hurts. And if those plays were finished, we're talking about probably an Eagles win. We're talking about Hurts going over 300 yards and throwing a few touchdowns against one of the best defenses in the NFL. And the whole narrative around him changes. The whole conversation around him on this Monday changes as well. It is a completely different conversation if some of these things happen. What if A.J. Brown keeps running? That is a 60-yard dagger of a touchdown from Hurts to A.J., which would have put the Eagles up 24-3. Broncos aren't coming back from that because also the momentum continues to be on the side of the Eagles. Instead, they have to punt, and the momentum of the game really changed. And I'm a firm believer that momentum is a real thing. And obviously, Jalen Hurts double clutched a little bit. And when you look at the play, A.J. Brown got rerouted. That's an important part of that play. But you don't stop your route when you know you're in the slot. You have a favorable matchup against, I believe, a linebacker to start, and then against Talanoa Hufanga, you give up on the route. If you keep running, that's a 60-yard bomb from Jalen Hurts to A.J. And it completely alters the chemistry and the complexion of the game. What if on that long ball earlier in the game, Jahan Dotson gets 2 feet down? Jahan Dotson has to have better sideline awareness. He beat Riley Moss. Hurts gave him a perfect ball, and Dotson didn't get 2 feet down. Dotson has to be better in that situation. And if the Eagles convert on that play, it leads to either 3 or potentially 7 points. And then later in the game, a crucial play of the game, Saquon goes out in motion, comes back into the backfield. He doesn't really get set, although I don't think it should have been a penalty. But Hurts on a 4th down from the Eagles' 49 throws it 30 yards downfield to Devontae Smith. Dime ball. Put it in a perfect spot. Perfect window throw. You complete that, you're in the red zone. You can get 3 points to take the lead, potentially 7. That could win you the game. Instead, It's negated because of that penalty, and Jalen Hurts has nothing to show for making a fantastic throw on that play. And so all of these are correctable. All of these things are happening in a moment that are crucial junctures of the ball game, and it went a long way in deciding the outcome of the game, and especially the narrative and the conversation around Jalen Hurts and his stat line. I mean, you look at what he did regardless, despite missing on those plays against this Broncos defense. 23 of 38, 280 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, 7.4 yards per attempt, and a rating of 100.8. He completes some of those passes. We're talking about Jalen Hurts going well over 300 yards, potentially throwing for 400 yards, at least 3 touchdowns if he completes that pass to A.J. Brown. And what are the people going to be saying about that? Nothing. Because Hurts would have carved up one of the top defensive units in the NFL, and the Eagles would have gotten the win, and he would have played a huge role in that. Now, I think there are some positives to take away from the negatives here. We saw the passing game come alive a little bit despite those misses. Devontae Smith, best game of his season, obviously. 10 targets, 8 catches, 114 yards, 14.2 yards per catch. The longest completion of the season for Philadelphia was on that 52-yard bomb from Hurts to Devontae. And it's crazy that some people on social media will say that Hurts long throw, 50 air yards, was a bad toss, and any other quarterback, would have completed that, and it would have been a walk-in touchdown. You realize that, there was a defender in Hurts' face, and he delivered that ball right in stride to Devontae Smith. That's as good of a throw as it gets. But because it's Jalen Hurts, people won't give him credit for that, because people think that he can't throw, that he's carried all the time, and they rely on social media to form their own opinions. But again, a positive sign that Devontae Smith in the passing game had some explosives, had some good production. Now, A.J. Brown was pretty much blanked in the second half. He couldn't really get going after recess, but in that first half, against Patrick Surtain, man on man, A.J. was winning that duel. 8 targets, 5 catches, 43 yards, 8.6 yards per catch. And obviously, he was able to come through in a couple of big spots, beating the 2024 Defensive Player of the Year. So any concerns about this pass game not being able to produce, that A.J. Brown is washed, that Devontae Smith is overlooked, you could throw those out of the window. Because against this Broncos team, last year one of the top defenses in the NFL, this year the same, we saw how this pass game in moments looked pretty damn good. With that being said, the offensive line definitely needs to play better. The lack of a run game is killing the Philadelphia Eagles right now. Something else that's a killer, the Eagles struggling on first downs. And when you struggle on first downs, obviously it puts you in a down and distance situation that's not ideal on second and third down, but it puts you behind the sticks, and it makes your job so much harder as an offense. It changes play calling. And obviously with the Eagles, when they start off a reset of the downs, it's pretty much like a 1st and 9 with the tush push and the brotherly shove. But when you're committing penalties on first down, when you have negative plays on first down, you have incompletions on first down, it leads to 2nd and 10, and the edge then immediately goes to the defense. And how about these numbers from Elliott Shore Parks and 94 WIP? Now doing some work with CBS 3 in Philadelphia. Congratulations to him. Eagles had 21 real first down plays against the Broncos. Of those 21 plays, 10 plays resulted in either 0 yards or negative yards. Only 5 plays were over 5 yards. Not a sustainable way to play football. And you've heard me use that term, right? Not a sustainable way to play football. How the Eagles have been playing to start the year, the first 5 weeks, it's not a sustainable way to play ball if you have hopes of winning a championship. So obviously what I've outlined here, some positives that you can take away from a lot of negatives that we saw in that loss against the Denver Broncos. A loss that was a choke job of a defeat for Philadelphia, and one that leaves us feeling sour on this Monday. But coming up around the corner, I'm also going to explain how I think a lot of these issues for the Eagles are fixable, and I'm a believer that these issues for the Birds can get fixed. Before we do that, Let's give a shout out to our sponsor, Chubbies. We appreciate them for making today's Philadelphia Eagles now possible. And some breaking news with fall here, we have a brand new deal thanks to our sponsor, Chubbies. 20% off when you use our link, chubbyshorts.com/chatsports, and the code chatsports. Again, 20% off, up from 10% off. You got to take advantage of this deal. The leaves are turning, the temperatures are dropping, and the weekend air is getting that nice autumn crisp. Just because the weather is changing over doesn't mean you have to pack away the fun. Chubbies is here to make sure your fall wardrobe hits harder on a slow Sunday morning with soft, stretchy, fall-ready staples built for maximum comfort and minimal effort. The Chubbies Fall Collection just dropped, and it's packed with cozy gear that brings the metaphorical and real heat. There's the new Comfort Collection featuring the Everywhere Jogger. It's the perfect pant for impromptu naps, weekend errands, and everything in between. We all agree fall should be cozy, right? Not constricting. And Chubbies delivers peak softness without sacrificing an ounce of style. So go ahead, break up with the stiff pants and embrace the fun side of it all. I love the material of their clothing items. I love the look, the different color schemes. You have seen me wear the Philadelphia Eagles NFL Collection Chubbies Polo. If you want that, this discount also applies. 20% off. You see the Eagles Polo on your screen right here. chubbyshorts.com/chatsports. Whether you're layering up for tailgates, lounging through lazy Sundays, or just leaning fully into fall comfort, Chubbies has you covered. For a limited time, they are giving our listeners 20% off your order using the code ChatSports at chubbyshorts.com/chatsports. That's code ChatSports using our link. Support the show and show yourself some respect. Enhance your wardrobe with Chubbies. That link is down below in the show notes and attached to the pinned comment of today's Philadelphia Eagles. Now, all right, to the back half of the show. A lot of the issues that we've seen this year from the Philadelphia Eagles are correctable, which is why I believe if the Eagles can correct some of these problems and they hit their stride, they can once again be looked at as a bona fide Super Bowl contender. And let me run through my thoughts here. Can the Eagles fix false start penalties? Yes. Can the Eagles tidy up their RPOs so that Tyler Steen is not an ineligible man downfield? Yes. Can the Eagles do a better job of getting players set, like Saquon Barkley, when he wasn't set, according to the officials, kind of a play that could go either way, and because he was penalized, that negated a huge play in the game when Jalen Hurts hit Devontae Smith downfield with that terrific fourth down conversion, which then got brought back. The Tyler Steen penalty put the Eagles behind the sticks, led to the Eagles punting. The Eagles had so many self-inflicted wounds against Denver, but the positive news here is I think that these issues can be corrected by Philadelphia. Did officiating really hurt the Eagles at times yesterday? No doubt. The plays that I mentioned just now, and then also a play that I don't think Zach Bond should have been penalized on because he is taught to finish the play and fight through the whistle. J.K. Dobbins, or R.J. Harvey, it was R.J. Harvey, was trying to continue to pick up yards after contact after Andrew Makuba wrapped him up with the great form tackle. Zach Bond finishes the play. He gets penalized. If the Broncos settle for a field goal there, Eagles get the ball with over 2 minutes left. It's a completely different game. Dallas Goedert, final drive of the game, gripped up and tackled by the chest. No flag. And if the penalty is thrown there, Eagles get the ball inside the 5 with probably 2 shots to throw the ball into the end zone to try to score a touchdown to win the game in the last seconds. Did we see signs of life from the Eagles passing game on Sunday? Yes, we did. Devontae Smith went over 100 yards. There were some explosive plays through the air. Jalen Hurts looked damn good in that first half. He threw the 47-yard wheel route to Saquon Barkley, a great thought process for him to devise, draw up, and call that play. Great execution with Saquon, burning former Eagle Alex Singleton. A.J. Brown in the first half. The Eagles made it a concerted effort to get him involved. He looked pretty damn good against Patrick Surtain. And so can the Eagles continue to build off of that performance through the air moving forward? I think that they can. Did Jalen Hurts show some moments against one of the top defenses in the National Football League? Yes, he did. Can the Eagles have a get-right game against the New York Giants on Thursday Night Football? Yes, and they've got an opportunity after a very difficult start to the schedule to play one of the worst teams in the National Football League in the Giants, and they're going to be motivated and pissed off in that game. Did beating the Giants last year in Week 6 get the ball rolling for Philadelphia? It did. And the Eagles in that game at MetLife were able to find and establish an identity. Here we are going into Week 6. The Eagles don't have an identity. It has not been established. And just like last year, the start to the year has been very Jekyll and Hyde. Did the Giants just lose to the Saints yesterday, who had not had a win prior to Sunday? And did the Giants lose 3 fumbles? Yes. Are they one of the worst coached teams in the NFL? Yes. Do they have a rookie quarterback? Yes. You'll side with Philadelphia 10 times out of 10, and I think Philadelphia is going to beat the brakes off the Giants, and I think that victory, that performance, if they can play a full 60, gives them belief, and it allows them to figure out some of their flaws, their weaknesses, and answer some of the questions that they have. Are the Eagles now a pissed-off ball club on a short week? Oh, yes, they are, and now they get to take on a divisional rival that they have bullied over the last decade plus. Have the Eagles shown under Nick Sirianni since he came to Philadelphia in 2021 that they can get better during a season, that they can improve and make quality in-season adjustments that can result in formidable changes being made and winning? Yes. Do we believe in the Eagles' talent on the roster? I do. I know a lot of you do. You watch these games. They've played C-level football the first 5 weeks of the year. They're still 4-1. And I believe in the talent to get it right. And also, there are no more undefeated teams left in the NFL. Bills also lost last night. You think their fan base is going crazy? If the Eagles figure out these issues and on offense, they become more balanced, this can be a really scary team. And if the Eagles did not do some of these dumb things on Sunday, which were very uncharacteristic for them, given the culture, the expectations, and the team that Nick Sirianni has built, would they have won? I think they do. Now, there are existing concerns with the Eagles. These are the existing concerns with the Philadelphia Eagles moving forward, and they need to get these problems figured out. The offensive line play is bad, and the offensive line is a unit that Howie Roseman has invested a lot of money into, and they're perceived as one of the most dominant and best units in the National Football League. They haven't played like that to start the year. The Eagles' run game has been non-existent. Their run game could really open up the pass game, especially with explosives. And yesterday, the pass game got going, but the run game is non-existent. Imagine if both get going. This Eagles offense could be absolutely unstoppable. The Eagles also have to find a way to play a full 4 quarters. The Eagles offense has to find a way to beat zone. And then a sneaky underrated storyline is the lack of a pass rush for Philadelphia. They're certainly missing Nolan Smith, but even when Nolan Smith was on the field, the Eagles only had a half sack from their edge rushers to start the year, and it came from Zadarius Smith in Week 2 against the Chiefs. So that needs to be figured out. Wouldn't be surprised if Howie Roseman makes a trade, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later today. All right, so how are you feeling? Are you feeling more positive about the Eagles now after this show? If you are, type P for positive. Still feeling negative? Type N for negative. I was trying to be the voice of reason on today's Philadelphia Eagles Now. Don't forget to give me a follow on X and Instagram, by the way. I'm churning out content here on YouTube. I'm doing the same over there for free as well on my social media pages.